Welcome back. Today I'm really excited because I want to show you guys how to build the V-Tek. The V-Tek is my design with a lot of love from a lot of different people that have scratch build planes, and this plane to me is probably, I would say, one of the best planes that I have, not because I put it together, but because flying, it flies so easy, and so that's why it's called a V-Tek. It's very easy to build, very easy to fly, and very fun. So there's two different versions I have. One is a 3D version, and the other one is just a basic. This is what I'm going to teach you how to build. I'm not going to show you how to make the angled wings, because you can pretty well from the what we're going to build. You can just take a pair of scissors and cut an angle on it. It's not that hard to do. But just to show you how to make this is going to be a lot of fun. So let's get started. You're going to need 2 sheets of foam board. I prefer the Walmart foam board over the dollar store foam board. It's a little bit more durable. Today we're going to work on this one right here. This one is a square wing. Nothing special about it. It does not have a rudder. Rudders to me are great when you're doing a lot of stunts or when you're landing into the wind so that you can bring your plane down in one piece. This really doesn't need it. So we're dealing with our elevator and ailerons only. And we can, this plane over here is a 3D. It has the rudder and everything on it. You can easily cut a rudder into this, not a big deal. Okay, let's go ahead and start marking out our plans. Our first mark is going to be 7 3/4. Then we make a second mark at 7 3/4. Okay, we're going to go across the page at 17.5. Make your second mark at 17.5. And we're going to take those marks and we're going to connect them together. Okay, now when you make this wing, you're going to make a second wing just like this on your separate page. Okay, now you're going to make a center line and mark that out. Okay, then you'll need to make an 1 7/8 mark. Don't go all the way to the edge of the page. Make a second one up at the top. 1 7/8. Right there. Okay, and again, staying away from the edge of the page, because your marks on the edge of the page are going to be 1.5 inches. So that's going to be your next mark. Come off the edge and go 1.5 inches and do the same thing on the bottom. Now connect those dots there. Okay, that will be your wing section. Now on the upper area, you'll want to X that out, because you're going to cut the upper area out, leaving the lower area is going to be your aileron part. Now be sure that when you mark your next wing out, that it's exactly the opposite of the last one. The next thing that we're going to be doing is working on the fuselage. You're going to make a 5 3/4 mark, and then you're going to come from the other side. You're going to make a 12 3/4 mark and go ahead and connect those dots. Okay, now you will make an 1.5 inches mark on both sides of this piece, so that what you'll be doing in the future here is you're going to be folding those up and actually making the fuselage part. So go ahead and mark it on both sides, scribe your lines across. Okay, next we're going to work on the elevator section. So go ahead and continue that line on the top all the way across at your 12.5. You're going to mark up 5.5 inches and scribe that line across. Then you're going to come 1.5 inches on each side, and you're going to make a center line. And now at that center line to the 1.5 inch line, you're going to scribe a line on each side. That's it. Go ahead and mark the other side. Now we're going to go ahead and mark from the outside a 3-inch mark across and a 1-inch mark down, and go ahead and connect those corners together. So that's 3 across and 1 inch down, and you connect those dots together. Next you'll be coming from that one point there and making a 2-inch mark, and you're going to scribe a line across there so that that is going to be for you. Whoops, that's going to be for your elevator. So scribe that across. Next, we're going to work on the tail. So you're coming 9 inches across. Make a mark. Take a square, which is a perfect 45, and make a line across. You're going to make that line all the way up to 7 inches. At 7 inches, take your square and bring it across all the way to the corner. Now, what that leaves is a little 1-inch point. Just go ahead and square that little 1-inch point off. This is going to be for your tail section. So we're all set up for that right now. What I want you to do is take all the points and just X them out so you know that those are the scrap pieces that you don't need. Now, you're going to save those scrap pieces for later for using other things. Now, we're going to score out in the center line that you've made for your elevator. Don't go too deep. You only want to score enough just to make a fold. This is going to be your first fold, and then you're going to score not on the elevator side, but on the actual fin side of it. You're going to score a 45 back right down to the edge of the paper. Enough so that you can get flap back and forth, so you get good movement on your elevator. Be very careful. Make sure you have a good blade when you're doing this so that you get a decent cut. If the cut's not perfect, doesn't matter. It still works just as well. Okay, next you'll be making one piece that's going to be an 8 1/4 by 1 3/4, and then you have 2 pieces 16 by 1 3/4. You also need to make 2 pieces 1 1/4 by 15 1/2. That's going to be for your spur for your wing. Okay, we're going to work on the fuselage right now, and all we're going to do is take one of your pieces that you've just cut, which I'll use the 1 1/4 by 15, and we're going to the inside of the line that you made, you're going to make a second line. So you're going to use your 1/4 inch foam to make that line. Repeat the same thing on the other side to the inside. Okay, this is giving you a cut line on both of those are to be cut halfway through, so that when you fold everything back, that it makes a perfect fold. Now, if you're using a pod, make sure that you line your pod up with your plywood to the foam and set it down. Mark your pod clips so that when you set the pod down, that you're actually making those to recess inside. This makes a nice solid fit. If you're not doing that, then don't worry about this step right now. Now we're going to go ahead and score each one of those lines out. This will give us, only go halfway. Don't put too much pressure on it. Put enough pressure just to get yourself so you can fold those pieces out. Do all 4 of your lines. Now this is a really important step right now. Make sure you go all the way through, but do not cut that paper. Okay, go ahead and open up your folds. Now open them up all the way. Make sure you pull it all the way back, because what you're going to do is that center foam you want to be able to pull out. Grab it with your fingernail or your finger. I don't have any fingernails, as you see, but go ahead and pull it all out. And any excess that's on the inside, make sure you scrape it all out so that you get a good fold. Okay, the next thing we're going to work on, set this aside for a second after you get all your pieces folded out. Let's go ahead and work on the tail section. Now, one little thing we've got to do on the lower section of the tail, we're going to take a 1/4 inch foam and we're going to lay it on top so we make a 1/4 inch line across there. Then you're going to come from the tip of the tail on the lower bottom corner, go 3 1/4, 1 1/4. Okay, that 1 1/4 you're going to be saving. So the 3 1/4 and the opposite side are going to be cut out. Now be careful when you cut it out, because these are small little areas here. Now the other thing we're going to do is on the corner back tail, you're going to make 1 1/4 by 1 1/4, and you're going to cut that back corner out right here on the corner. So go ahead and mark 1 1/4, 1 1/4, and let's cut that out right now. Okay, I want you to go ahead and get your glue gun heated up, because we're getting ready to start putting all these parts and pieces together. This looks like a good fit right here. Alright, get your wing section out again and score the center line that we've made. Don't score it all the way through again. Don't cut the paper, and also score your aileron part. This is very important to not score all the way through. Now, the other area on the side, you're going to go ahead and score all the way through. Now, snap those areas all the way down. There you go, and this will give you a nice fold. Now we're going to mark 1.25 inch lines. We need 2 on each side of that center line, 2.25 inch lines. What you're going to do is the side on the opposite side of the elevator, you're going to score those. Only half score them. You don't even have to score them that much, because those are actually going to be folded in to start creating your wing. Just lightly score those in. If you don't even feel comfortable with a knife, take a popsicle stick and just make a score line down them. Now, we're going to go ahead and fold over and then score on both sides. You want to cut out a little bit more than a 45 on both sides of that center line that you have, so that you're able to actually fold that wing all the way over. Take those other 2 lines that you scored and bend them up. Bend them up lightly. Don't do it too hard, because you don't want to snap the wing, but you want to bend it up enough to get those folds over. Okay, and then take the wing and actually fold the whole wing over, and make sure that you have enough room to fold it all over. This is your spur, the 15.5 by 1.25 inch. Just set it in there and check it out. Now let's go ahead and start gluing together our fuselage. Our 2 sides will overlap over top of the bottom part, as you see. Let's go ahead and put some glue in. Let's get started. Make sure you put a moderate amount of glue inside so that this holds together pretty well. Go ahead and fold your side over top of the bottom edge. Set it down on the table to make sure you got a nice fit. Any glue that's inside, make sure you wipe off the excess, and take a scrap piece that has a 45 on it, hold it in the corner, give it a couple minutes to dry. Go ahead and repeat that same process on the other side. Now, once you've put this together, make sure you look down and through that it's all true and square. You always have a couple of minutes during this process to pull things in directions to make sure that everything's sitting in the right way. Everything looks good here. Looks nice and square. Okay, we're going to go ahead and glue the wing together. You want to grab that 15.5 by 1.25 inch spur and put it down on the aileron side. Make sure that it's pushed all the way to the center of the wing, leaving the little bit on the other side. Now put a little bit of glue, I would say a moderate amount of glue, down the center. You got to do this all pretty quickly. Put some more glue down that spur that you've just put down. Now you're going to take that wing and you're going to fold it over, gently fold it over until everything is pressed in. Now you're going to spend a little bit of time with this. Press that wing in. Make sure that everything across that area is glued down across the front edge. Very important, that front edge, because you want to make sure it all looks with an airfoil. Okay, now the edge that you haven't glued, where the aileron flap is, you need to glue that down, seal that down nice and tight. All the way across. Make sure you put a little bit of time into it. Press it down really good so that it dries well. Okay, that outer edge that you've held back with that spur in the center, you're going to put a bead of glue across there and then close that edge up. So that makes a nice seal across that. Make sure you wipe off any excess glue that's on the outer edge. Now you've got your first side of the wing. Do all this process again on your second wing. Now that you have both of your sections of wing, put them together, make sure everything's fitting tight. Everything looks great on this section. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get our elevator and our tail section together. Now, what you need to do is make a notch where you have that notch on the tail. Make that notch in the center of the elevator so that it fits nice and tight. Once you've made that, go ahead, put a bead of glue across that, put it a little bit on the edges also, and go ahead and glue these two parts together. Again, use a scrap piece of foam to hold alongside the edge of it to make sure that it's sitting upright. This is a very important part of this, because if it's a little bit off, it really does affect the plane in its flight. So make sure that that's sitting correct. You also want to make sure that your elevator is working proper. Okay, now take your wing, flip your wing over. We need a piece of packing tape to run across that wing. So go ahead and get yourself a piece of packing tape, pull as tight as you can on the wing, and pull them together. And push that packing tape down. Make sure that everything's sitting nice and tight. There you go. Now cut off any excess that you have hanging over the edge. What we'll do is we'll fold that wing open, and we're going to squirt a good amount of glue inside that edge right there, holding that wing together. This is going to pretty well hold that whole wing together, so you want to make sure you get a nice bead of glue inside of it. Fold it down on a flat table and press together. Okay, before you do anything else, you really should take another bead of glue and feed it right down the center here so that everything is tight. Take a piece of scrap foam and rub it in, and this gets a nice tight seal. Let it sit for a minute or two, and then take a piece of packing tape and run it across it. This really is a nice tight wing. Won't have any problems with this thing falling apart. Go ahead and cut it off. Fold the rest of the tape around the edges. Now you're really starting to put your wing together. You're getting all your things together here. Now on your other pieces that you have, you're going to make a 3/4 inch mark. Take that and scribe it all the way down. That's going to be the edge of where you're going to take your 16 and 1 3/4 inch, and you're going to put that on top of it, glue it down. Make sure you make a nice tight square fit, because this is going to be your extension to your tail section. So you got, again, make sure you take your glue excess off the edges and then make sure it's nice and square. Okay, you have one more piece here, 1 1/4 inch by 1 3/4 inch. What you'll need to do is take and make a little notch on the bottom of it. You'll understand here in 1 second, because what we're going to do is feed that straight underneath, and it's going to be part of your tail and your fin section. So put a little piece of tape on it. This is going to connect to your fuselage. So go ahead, center it up, put it on your fuselage. Now again, we're going to open that fold up. Turn it over, open your fold up, and put a little bit of glue inside of it. Set it back down on the table, wipe any excess off. Okay, here comes the fun part. Now we're going to mount the tail and the elevator to this area. So make sure you're lined up with your center spur. As you see, the center spur and your tail section is dead in the center of your other rail that comes across. Put a lot of pressure on that. Make sure that that section is glued nice and tight. Then take your fuselage area and slide it right underneath, making sure that all these fits are nice and tight. Everything on this looks like it's really fitting well. Okay, we've got a good, nice, tight fit. So what we're going to do is pull this apart. We're going to go ahead and glue these together. So put yourself a moderate amount of glue on your rail coming across. Pretty nice moderate amount, because this is needs to really hold together well. Now this is a little bit tricky when you're trying to slide your other piece in. You've got to be kind of quick, and you've got to make sure that that glue doesn't harden on you. So make sure you get yourself underneath that tail section and push pretty hard. You got to give it a good push. That actually pushes the glue into your other parts and pieces there. Hold everything together. Make sure that this is in the center also. You want a 1/4 inch gap on each side of that fuselage area in case you're doing the pod, in case everything needs to be lined up. This is very important to have. Take a bead of glue on each side of your tail area. Any other areas that you feel you need a little bit of glue, put some glue on them. There's nothing wrong with having a little bead of glue. Always wipe off though. You don't need a big blob of glue. Next we're going to go and make a mark at 4 3/8 from the front. This mark here is the front of your wing section. Make a center line all the way through that whole fuselage area. Set your wing on top at your 4 3/8 mark and line up. You can see that the center line of the wing, line that up with your center line. Now make on the back side of it, make a line. That whole area right there, you're going to put a lot of glue. Make sure you load it up with glue right there. That's going to be holding your wing together. So it's very important to go ahead and put a lot of glue. No problem with that. Now go ahead and set your wing right on those points. The front of the line, everything should line up. And put moderate pressure on this to make sure that it holds down in place. Give yourself a couple minutes. Take a little time with your plane here and put some pressure on it. Make sure it's sitting nice and tight. Wiggle it around a little bit. Look down your wing. Make sure your wing and your tail are equal. It's very important to have those wing, tail, elevator, everything. It should be nice. Go ahead and put another bead down the edge and do the same thing on the opposite side. Always wipe off. You don't need a big blob of glue because what it'll do is bubble up and it'll look really bad. So just wipe it in. Same thing on the other side. This gives it a really nice hard fit. Now what I do is I take a little bit of glue on the tail bottom section. Okay, so now you've got yourself your basic plane. One thing I've done just to add some wheels to it, there's two different ways that you can handle this. You can do this potted, or you can do this just as it is. So then you could just mount, you can put a motor mount right on the face of this. Actually put all your controls to the inside here in this area here, just Velcro them on. Or you could do it with a pod. This gap I have here is just big enough so that you can slide a pod right inside, and then that actually works as you would do something from flight test. I've done another video about how to make wheels. And I've taken this design here and I've crimped it in a little bit to the center and folded the edges out so that I can make the wheels fit right inside, and they're glued right inside the bottom there. So this seems to work pretty good. I mean, it's holding well. We'll see how it flies. The one goes in the center of the wing. Now that's a little tricky now because you've got a big bead of glue in the center, but it doesn't hurt the wing. The wing is very, very strong. So when you're cutting through, don't worry that you're going to take the integrity out of the wing. So I'm going to go ahead and cut myself a plate on here for my firewall, and we're going to put our servos in this, and let's get this thing flying. I'm ready. All right, we got our V-Tek all set up. I got all my servos in it. Haven't really trimmed it out real well yet, so let's go ahead and get in the air, and very close to being trimmed out. Let's get it up. Let's see how it flies. I got a 2208. This is a 1450 kV on it. It's a little bit lighter than I'm used to because usually I have a pod on it, and the pod usually adds the extra weight that I need. So a little nervous about that. Let's make sure this is connected all the way. But we'll check it out, see how it does.
ground shake.